just either or both. And again to the question, right, I mean, it will be very interesting to look at what is the average of age of the CXO in a Fortune 500 company, right? If you take all the Fortune 500 companies, what's the average age? I don't have the data point at this point of time. But probably you will see it's a downward trend happening. It's not because all the top Fortune companies have started hiring young CXOs. What happened to us, a lot of matured Fortune 100 to 500 companies are moving out of Fortune 500 and new tech companies are coming and taking that space. Right? So there are multiple variables which are happening. Again, from my point of view, you really need to transform an existing setup, an young CXO, young talent who has very fresh perspective will help. But if you really need someone to take a business from 100 million to 1 billion to 2 billion, probably you need sustainable systems at place. That's where a mature talent would help you. That's where you will see a lot of the large startups are starting to go after IPOs. You will see the investors putting a very institutionalized CEO into place, moving the founders a bit. Because the founders have a very product-driven mindset, but you need the full breadth of scope in terms of executing things. So again, in short, you will see both, the mix of both, because it all completely depends on the situation. And again, that's going to sustain. Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the other side effects is most of the points are covered. But to Balram's point, I'm also a note guy, so I noted all the points I wanted to say, but more of them I've ticked off. But I'll take a cricket analogy, right, to extend that. I think Kohli or Rohit Sharma and others, how they brought in the change over the years to the days of, lack of a better term, maybe a Sanjay Manjrekar type and things like that, right? I think that's the analogy I see here. Yes, Kohli and Rohit, we can depend on them, not on an old-timer. I used to be scared to watch a Pakistan-India cricket match, right? 1990s and 95s, because we know that first 20 overs we will be too good, and the next 20 overs will be decent, and the last 10 overs we lose. You remember those days when we will always, the last 10 runs or the 3 wickets will always go fast and we will lose. But now we enjoy watching this thanks to Virats of the world, Rohits of the world, and so on. I think that's the trend we are seeing also in the industry, right? The fearlessness, the innovativeness, and I would say take over the world, right? We know nothing can stop us, and you can see that with the Hardik's up-bound shots, right? Without even looking at the ball. So that's one of the good things, right? So where you see these new leaders coming in, and we see this every day, where they can come and do things, take actions, and some of the points that Anish and others mentioned, like this agility and the speed that the new leaders bring in, just amazing. You want that. Let's take the flip side a little bit. Will you go with Rohit and Kohli for every test match now, right? Why did you fire, for the lack of a better word, a Pujara or a Ham? I think that's an analogy here, right? Are they too slow for you? Are they not good enough for you? And the question I think many of the industries, to most of the panel discussion here is, do we still need the Pujaras from the Rahanes in the team? Right? They're not too old, but is their thinking, we feel not good enough? And Mohammed brought up a great point, right, that we see every day. It's easy to scale up to your team from 1 to 100, 5 to 10 million, 10 million to 80 million, but when you cross that, are you lacking the skill sets to scale? I will not talk about a discipline or a muscle brain, what you have done, but there are bigger aspects of that experience rather than the skill set that comes into the picture, right? I think that's a patience, for the lack of a better word. And I think Balram and I were discussing over lunch, the younger generation, because of nobody to blame, COVID or whatever reasons, do they have the enough people skills that's needed to converse, to argue, the patience to take it beyond a notch, and wait and have the patience for results, right? It could be a person-to-person interaction, it could be a business interaction, It could be a development methodology where to go to prod, the quality of a deliverable and product you need to have. Or it could be just a process automation, right? To see the value and the ROI in it. So I think it's a combination of that, lack of a better word, the lack of patience, how that combines with the experience of a Rahane and the patience of Rahane or a Pujara into the mix. To whatever the panel said, it's a mix of both. I take my personal example. I think I've learned being like Ekalivar to many of the mentors I've had in my life, staying at a distance and watching them. The customers can, the younger generation, have the patience to watch and learn rather than inquisitiveness. Great, right? And I think we were also discussing over lunch. That's essential for growth and innovation, to question everything. But where do you not cross the line of questioning everything and stopping to learn, right? It's a very great line, and hopefully that's the match I think both the generation needs to find.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for the cricket analogy. Yeah, in fact, I think as you were all speaking, I'm actually playing the movie in my mind, the and the future. So it's like, and she's at a point in time, Anand is looking for a CEO to scale, what everybody's saying, and she's really not wanting to let go. And then this person says, don't worry, good things will happen, and so on. So I think what you're saying is moving, it's beyond the skill set of being able to manage, to actually be able to have balanced mind and the anchoring mindset that helps them to help you, get more comfortable with your own troubles, I guess I would say. Mohammed actually took away my next point when he said about the age of the CEOs, which is what I wanted to bring about. And so the answer to your question is the average is around 53 in the Fortune 500, marginally coming down. But again, that's the average, right? So McKinsey and all are saying the average CMO is like 40 years old, and even younger, right? So the question I have is, we are seeing these CXOs, we're getting to that role at a much younger age. And also, some of you have talked about how they are also moving on to something else, like Mohammed himself going.
So for you guys, this generation gap and younger generation and the older generation, that fight will be there. And now you would have seen this new Valentine campaign what 5-star has come up with. So that, and then there is a trend that if some trend uncles are following, then young generation will go away from that. And from that lens, this new campaign of 5-star has come. If you have not seen, you see that. And that fight will be there. The solution that both of them have to understand each other. Both are needed. Sometimes the senior management and the opposing with a more experience can handle a difficult situation. When the difficult time comes, there the actual taste happen. So when the happy times goes, everything is good and this thing. So understanding both the generation is very much needed because some of you have to work with a manager who is older. And somewhere in some organization will be very young and all people will be say probably 50, 60 years who will report to you. So if you do not understand them, who are junior to you, very, very junior, and you have to manage, then there will be conflict. Otherwise, if your manager is also old, if you do not understand their lens, there will be conflict. Once we understand each other, then the lubrication happens.
Sometimes you need to take a decision whether per week 40 hours or 120 weeks.
And some debates will always be there, some conflicts will be always there. You have to choose your battle.
Thank you.
So, see, like, I was just thinking of the cricket thing, right? And probably it's happening across all time zone, timelines, right? Like when Sachin came, he was just 16, right? So it's kind of a multiverse. It keeps repeating it, and you will see
there is a pattern to it.
And remember one thing, that everybody will grow old. So you're young today, so this clock is clicking at the same time for everyone. So you have to respect everything.
Yeah. So do younger leaders, the question they have in this context is, do younger leaders have an edge in tech-driven kind of organizations leading them. Right? That's one thing. The other question I have is, when we see this shorter tenures, so what does it make? What is the impact it has on the decision-making process? Are we looking at the short term versus the long term from the CXO's perspective, right? Because we know that their window is 3 years and 4 years. Should they be looking at something like this? How does it impact their decision making? And most importantly, what does it mean in terms of organization's succession planning? Right? We are looking at if somebody is getting 40s, then I don't have a long runway to find somebody and then be able to have that kind of traditional formats of succession planning going on. So how do these things play together?
Yeah, in fact, going back to the first question which we have discussed so long, and of course from one of the data that I think Mohammed, you were actually giving about the penetration of the younger people within the Fortune 100 or Fortune 500 companies and how it is coming down. Now, a few months back, a similar session in Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industries where I was speaking, and for that I had to make a little research. So I was making the research first on the age. Observation was similar as you pointed out, it's coming down. I then make a research on the gender. And of course the observation was that the increase of the women participation there is increasing. But then they made another search, which is possibly we would really not be even considering that that can exist. I was curious to know whether in the Fortune 100 there is a CEO of a transgender type. Obvious expectation was that it would be zero. The answer came back that there are 4 or 5 and it is increasing. So it is no more a question of a respect with age or gender. Even when a transgender also is superb in his activities, we very soon will have to be seen that everything will be there at the time of affairs and as the leader. It's a purpose-driven respect. It is because of an experience or because of being a gender, the respect will not actually automatically. Even if I say I am experienced and therefore hear me out, the question will be, you are experienced in a time and the time itself has changed. So therefore the benchmarking of your experience, so the premise on which your experience failed has now changed completely. You have not seen this. So all actually has to be considered based on a purpose-driven respect. Coming to your second one, which you first mentioned, whether the younger people will have an age on the tech type of knowledge. Not necessarily actually, because why? Definitely because of their memory, because of the brain functioning also, and because of the raw intelligence, because of more neural network synapses in the brain being still more functional of a 25, 30-year-old guy, 55-year-old guy, their ability to grasp an algorithm or a model or a tech will be much more. But their ability also to implement it and link it to a business may also be very limited, because in this case their experience is limited. So they have also not seen the implementation of such a thing and how the business will be functioning, where possibly a older guy will be bringing in the business perspective. So not necessarily that since he is young, he could be very innovative, but that doesn't mean that innovation will actually lead to a very successful project and implementation. The second question you asked is that whether the decision-making processes become swifter and faster. It's a question of agility now. Definitely the window of a decision-making is now coming down. Like we used to have a 5-year business plan, 3-year business plan, all those things, short-term, mid-term, long-term kind of a business plan. But what is now becoming very important is a dynamic business plan and how agile I will be. Because I may be going in a direction, but there has to be certain anticipation of the market situation. Therefore, contingency planning is becoming very essential if it doesn't happen in that way. And how nimble-footed, how agile I will be, so that if my plan doesn't work out, then how quickly I can resolve that. And if that necessitates a change even in that organization structure, even in my competency hiring, even in my processes, how quickly I will be able to maneuver towards the direction in which I feel now the right thing will happen and my earlier plan was wrong. So it has to be the agility, not in what window and timeline I will still be doing a 3-year plan, 4-year plan, 5-year plan. But the agility factor has to be definitely given a consideration. How less attached I will be. Because sometimes when old people like us, we become very attached to something. That I planned it in that way, even if I sense a failure, I don't want to see the red flag. I feel I will go and I will do it. But that openness, that sense of redness in that agility I have to have. And your third question was not on the succession plan. That's important. Yeah, very good. See, the succession plan possibly has to be very much depending on the vision of that organization also. Like if I am a startup, I've started to build up an organization. Now, what is my plan? Do I have an exit path, or I want to build an institution? Would I continue to build a long-lasting enterprises, or I have an exit? If I am a brick-and-mortar organization, do I need to be diversifying into certain things? And I feel that I will be continuing in this area. Many of those things will actually contribute to that succession planning also. It's not just now that I'm 40, now that I'm 45, I start thinking about my succession planning. Definitely there has to be there. I will not say the succession planning, I will say competency grooming. Leadership development will have to happen throughout the organization. But that not necessarily need to be just because of an age big criteria that my immediate succession plan has to be done.
The question was, I might not have, so the leader might be the leader for a shorter window of time. If that is the case, as a HR, would I have the same runway to build the succession plan? Earlier, I might have been used to a possibility that a CEO stays for about 10 years or so. And so
Yeah, I think what you are possibly trying to aim at is the leadership development, the competency building. Now, this is also again, there are certain inherent characteristics in the leaders, which is openness, agility, the nimble-footedness, the ethics purpose, which will definitely be there. And that possibly need not be really developed, that has to be hard. But in terms of the real competencies, honestly in this dynamic world, to build some competencies over a long term and thinking that he will be a leader after 15 years is very difficult now. Because in which direction the organization will now be moving into, if I do not really know, then bringing up leaders, whether my leader will be organically from my own ranks, or I will have to bring it from outside. These are many things, but yes, definitely top 10, 20, 30 talents will have to be spotted always. The basic characteristics and foundation characteristics will have to be continuously emphasized and harped into them, because some institution will still be developing on them. But if we come to the hard competencies, it's very difficult to predict in which direction the competencies will actually be getting into.
Yes, I'll go 1, 2, and 3. So first of all, tech-driven and that question, and I think Ambush sir rightly pointed out. I think I'll little bit generalize that. I would say this question that you said, older, younger, experienced, less experienced. It depends on what we are talking about, the industry field we are talking about, and what is the pace of change in that. There can be field or functions where the experience and the age is a positive factor. Let's take a very simple example, let's say sales. Right? If you have done sales team for a very long time, and you have that connection and contact in the industry, whether you work for one company or other company, that's going to be a big asset, because you cannot build that network and that connection and all that experience in different situations, how to sell to different kind of person. You cannot develop that overnight by doing a course, right? So if the pace of the change in the industry, company or the function is less, then I think experience is an asset, because over a period of time you are building some learning, knowledge, connection that's going to help you throughout the future. Whereas there can be some field where the pace of the change is very high, right? And like I'll probably draw the analogy, like if both of us are in the analytics field, so I'll draw the analogy of machine learning. So machine learning, what happens? You learn from some data, and then using that model, you predict the future. Now, if the new data that is coming for prediction is very different from the old data that you trained your model on, then your prediction is going to be wrong. And same for human beings, right? We learn from experiences, data, or the input that we get, and the new situation matches that. Then the experience helps us take a decision, and we can take a better decision. However, if you are put in a situation which is very new, very different, new technology, new stuff, then whatever old knowledge I have may be a baggage for me. I will try to take a decision based on that, but my situation, data, team, everything is very different. In that context, it's not going to work. Which is more true for tech industry, right? So, coming back to your question. So, tech is changing very fast. If we talk about data, tech, software development, and in the future, whether we'll be coding to develop software or not, we don't know. Maybe we'll have tools like Cursor and whatnot, so many GenAI tools are coming. So maybe we'll need a new tool to develop it, and we can develop it at a half time, at a lesser cost with a new tool. When somebody, or if not at the individual level, even at a company level, is not adopting that, they doesn't just lose out the game, but they will become obsolete also, right? So yes, I think some of the tech, as the tech is changing very fast, there are only people who have the knowledge of this tech. I will not just say younger generation, because the younger generation, if they don't know this tool and technology, then it's useless. But somebody who has a knowledge of this changing technology will definitely have an advantage, and that has happened. And that's what I think someone was pointing out. Fortune 100 age is going down, but maybe because Fortune 100 company profile is also changing. Earlier it's to traditional industry, industrial, oil and gas, FMCGs and all. Now more tech and other kind of industries are coming. Correct. Now, second point, the short term is a long term, and this is, I think, good that you pointed out, because I think I forgot to mention earlier to your first question, and this is a pattern I am seeing in my organization now. Younger generation, many a time I see, I'm not generalizing, there can be exception, but broadly, they probably have less patience, and they have more short term orientation than long term orientation. Very recently an event happened where one intern we had, he was doing very well. Then we gave him better offer, and then he got busy with some other work. He took it very lightly. Then there were some conflicts with the manager, and we had to let him go, right? But why it happened? Because I think initially he did well for a few months. He got a better offer, so he got happy, and he's trying to do something else. And he's not thinking that if I stay in the company, contribute in the longer term, I can get a full-time role, have a better career opportunity. He's been very short-term oriented. Okay, I can do a side project and 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees. He's not thinking the long term, I can join the company full-time, work for 5 years, 10 years, grow my career. And I've seen this in multiple people, not every young person, but a lot of them, many a times this short-term orientation is coming. And that may reflect, overall also, as you are saying, at the company level, if people are also coming at a short period of time, I think it is bound to happen, because at the end of the day, I would like to believe, human beings are selfish, right? Of course, they are working for a company in a social context, we will always say socially acceptable response. But at the end of the day, they will maximize, their benefit during that time, right? For example, if you as a professor or anybody is in an organization for a long period of time, they'll look at it as a different thing. They'll think of institution building, organizational building, long-term career and all that. And if somebody knows, okay, I may be fired in 2-3 years, and you guys may be brought in, the thinking will change, and that will reflect in a lot of things. Decision making will become very short-term oriented, and that will impact the succession planning, as you were saying. But again, I will say it will depend on the industry. There can be traditional industry, and I can quote the example of Sony where I work. So there are industries Sony operates in industry entertainment. There's the Sony operates in electronics, right? So electronics, the TV that they have, all the base technology they have built, or camera quality that they have built. So even if the iPhone is bringing in camera, they are using Sony components there, right? So build some competencies over 20, 30, 50 years. But in the camera technology, in the TV technology, in the electronics technology, or even entertainment, they have a lot of deals with the music companies, artists and all. So the competencies that they have built, nobody can replace them. But however, at the same time, Sony missed the opportunity and deviation happened. The iPod came, the iPhone came. They could have been able to capitalize on that, but they could not do because the new opportunity they did not do. But I saw in Sony and generally probably Japanese companies, succession plan is very long-term oriented. When I was working there, they used to think of 10 year and 5 year. No discussion about 1 year and 2 year, right? We used to make a plan, Sony in 8 year, 10 year, what is going to do, 5 year, what is going to do. Never discussion about 1 year, 2 year. Some execution will happen in the 1-2 year, but focus was always on the long term. Whereas there are also companies where a lot of short-term changes happening. We can take example of say Facebook. They implemented to Meta, then they launched Llama, like they try to beat VR and all, then they try to change back. Because Mark Zuckerberg took the decision very quickly, right? So I think in some of the industries that long-term succession planning will be beneficial because your competency develops over a period of time. And even for education institution, right, like XLRI or the top IIMs, the band, the network, the alumni network that they have built over the period of time, for a new institution it will be very difficult to challenge them in a short period of time. So in that industry, probably experience, succession planning, everything should be long term, and that thing actually adds value, the long termism. Whereas in some industry change is very fast, that is where probably we cannot be so long term oriented, and as many of the panelists mentioned, we have to be very agile, very fast, to keep studying the environment and adjust accordingly.
How was it between Nestle, Kellogg, and Yoga Bars?
So, every organization is very different, and if I have to point out that whether the young generation will have an edge on the digitization and the technology, so my answer will be yes, they will have. And I think so because it's not who is more intelligent, X or Y. Because you learn and grow where you invest your energy. And as they are more into that, they invest more energy in technology. So like say, now this generation, so next generation, Gen Alpha will be more equipped with AI. Because they are born with that technology. Okay, so as they are investing more time into that, they obviously will have an edge over the older generation. And if the older X also invest time, then they will do. But largely, if you see that they will not invest much time because they have multiple other things to focus on, and they will take advantage of the new generation and they will take that advantage. Second is if all the leadership position, if it is short term, so like say, if you say for 1 year, 2 years, I will call it a short term. And any leadership role, CXO role, that comes with lots of responsibility. And that responsibility are little on a mid-term and long-term. So you have to keep this thing in mind. And when you are recruiting a CXO with a very short-term period, and that person knows that I am there for 3 years, they will take lots of short-term call, which is probably not right for the organization. So you have to, it will be very situational that which context you are taking it. If it is a startup company and they have a plan for only 3 years, and they will after that they will sell it off, and then the strategy will be different. But if you have built an organization, long-term this thing, so you have to take a short-term pain for a long-term gain. So those things will only work if you have a mid-term or long-term CXO position. Succession plan is very, very important, and every organization will have that. And lastly, HR works on build and buy model. So something they will build in-house and they will buy from the, they will recruit from outside. And that again depends upon, is very, very specific to the organization. Like now the culture has changed dramatically. What I have learned and seen in Nestle and Kellogg and what I see in Yoga are very, very different. And I think it's need of the hour. You have to, both has their talent, and if we can use both the talent, then you get the best output. And that's the best way.
Sorry, in analytics field you're going to be having a lot of youngsters.
No, absolutely. So, at least the field that I have been, I have seen that, like in technology leadership role, I personally feel I have evidenced also that when folks are young, they are able to propel more. Then the more experienced or the traditional folks may. Means personally that has been my experience, because see, one thing which I call out as a highlight here is the courage and the boldness that they demonstrate. Because the courage to think transformatively. Now if we see anything that has happened, like be it even generative AI, ChatGPT, whatever, I mean that transformational thinking was envisioned sometime. Now I'm not sure that somebody who's lived 40-50 years in the traditional setup may think that transformatively, right? So that is something where I do feel that the youngers have an edge in the technology leadership. I've seen it personally evidenced and seen successful. Having said that, it is not about young or old only. It is about who possesses a tech mindset. There might be somebody young who may not have that mindset, and somebody more in age may possess an amazingly great tech mindset. So it's also that, but in general, personally, I have evidenced young leadership in my career, and I've found them to be bold and courageous, which I feel that is not ordinary, it is extraordinary. So that is why I say so. Now, to your question, is decision making impacted if they are only for a small period of time? Again, I would say that it is about the personal attribute of the individual. See, if somebody is coming with a service mindset, with a mindset of giving, he doesn't care that if after 4 years my term gets over, then what happens, let me do short-term things, create a name for myself, by take headache or whatever. So personally, I have evidenced leadership where they have really thought about the growth of the company, where the simple purpose is that my organization should be the best organization in the world, and for that, they, even if they had short-term decisions, they short-term tenure or the set tenure, but they took long-term decisions, which in turn helped them stay in the position for a longer term, because they were taking the right calls for the organization. So that is there. And in terms of building the succession plan, again, it is, see, once your term, you know that you are here for 4 years or whatever the term is. Again, it's the personal attribute, means it depends on the insecurity level of the leadership also, that whether they create the right succession planning or not. But whatever it is, that can always be done, because every leader has some very strong people whom can be mentored to be the next set of leaders.
I was just looking at another data point which we should look at is the number of employees in each of the Fortune 500 companies. Probably that's also coming down, because in future you will never have huge companies with millions of employees in a single organization, right? I mean, that I was just thinking. Again, to this conversation, right, something which I work with huge number of founders, exceptional founders, and it's very hard. It's very hard. They put in, I mean, I truly agree that 120, 140 over everything they can put in. And there's a huge burnout which is happening. So I do not think if there are situations where the founders move out of the role and they take a break and then kind of restart something else, right? So you will see more of that happening. And that's needed, because what happens at this point of time is, sir, I don't have to tell you, there is no constant or permanent competitive advantage, right? Someone was boasting that there is no one else could replicate a large language model like ChatGPT, and 18 months then you have DeepSeek which has come. Now the other founder is on run, right? He or she has to prove that there is a constant iteration coming. So there is no permanent competitive advantage that any of us are creating. So it's always a run. Every day you need to reinvent. Every day you need to find out what's the delta that I could bring. So in that kind of a pursuit, the burnout will happen, and it's not. I mean, if you are really working on a tech industry, for manufacturing it would be slightly different. But if you are in a tech, I don't think the titles will long for very significant long period of time. That's going to be the reality. And it doesn't matter to CXOs, it's across all profiles, right? One of the prominent customer relationship software firm came out openly saying that post 2029 we are not going to hire even a single software engineer. It was there in the news. We are not going to hire, right? And if there are no software engineers, the people who are doing MBA in HR, whom do they manage, right? So the world will be completely different for you guys. I mean, being very brutally honest, right? You will have completely an augmented workforce where you will have humans, you will also have a lot of agents, you will have a lot of automatic scripting, writing machines which are out there. So it's a mix of everything, and you will see that IT people, experienced team, everything coming together in one single function, coming very short period of time. So again, my point is that it's not just for CXOs, it's for everyone in this industry, in this world. Every day you need to find what is my competitive advantage, what is my edge, right? And people who could do that in a multi-threading way would sustain. And people who are still single-threaded, single processing probably will fall out of that race. That's my genuine feedback. No progress.
Sure.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm seeing mostly is younger old. These are all things we spoke about, right? Gen AI and others. There are the tech things we spoke about. They are tools to a bigger end or a bigger goal. I think the tools is a smaller decision in the overall reaching that goal, which means that younger or an old one, how well you are able to define or visualize that goal or put that vision. I think that's what is making or will make the difference. Yes, absolutely yes, the younger generation are better aware of the tools, better use of the tools. I feel they are more users of the tool rather than looking at the vision, and that's where I think this experience and the tooling part comes in. So again, to go back like maybe 1 hour back what we were discussing, if the blend is needed. I don't think, yeah, the later generation, the younger generation may be aware of the tools, but they may lack a little bit on putting that scalable vision. I think that's where the experienced people can come in and merge that, right? But again, the tools don't define, they may speed up some of the things, but they don't define the vision. So I purely see them as tools or means to the end, but the end has to be still well defined and continuously focused, and the end has to be scalable and usable, right? I think that's where there is a blend of both. Coming to the second point, I think short term or long term, it's very interesting aspect because again the companies are seeing that things are changing so fast. If you did, when I joined this particular company, a data company 2 years back, the whole product roadmap put by both young and senior executives is all in the shelves. So, is it age to blame here? No, absolutely no. The Gen AI that shifted the whole paradigm of all the industries left and right. What next? We don't know. It could be DeepSeek, it could be something else, right? So I think the vision, young or old, whoever puts it, it is bound to change fast. I think we are getting to that mode of fail fast, more and more of that mode of fail fast and find something that we need to be agile in the field. So any decisions you make, it could be technology decisions, it could be product decisions or process decisions, can they be changeable fast? I think that will dictate whether you are successful or not. Another paradigm shift we are seeing is from a product-oriented approach of every company or a process or a product, right? Service, wherever you want to move it, it's moving into a platform-oriented approach, right? Because that's the only way companies are seeing them as scalable. From a portfolio or a product approach, anything you think, it has to be platform. What I mean by that is, it's not only me, it's a larger ecosystem in play here. Can I onboard my larger ecosystem into my platform? So anything that's smaller vision, which is a pure product or a process or a portfolio, will fail. I think that's where the larger vision is still important. And the larger vision, the smaller vision that we spoke about could be going towards that platform vision, but without a platform vision, everyone is going to fail. Coming to the last part, the succession plan, one of the interesting data we can look at is how many of the companies are getting CEOs internally, right? The GEs of the world or Microsoft of the world, maybe to Mohammed's point and others, right? It could stop. I think that's where it's multiple factors. It's always like you want fresh blood and so on, and the paradigm shift is so much in the market. It's nothing to do with the internal systems, right? Microsoft has been always doing that when you have the time and resources to develop 3 or 4 folks, pitch them against each other with the best win, and you choose Satya or somebody, right? But I think those days are a little bit gone. With the headcount and everything coming down, and also whether you want to go in the same direction as you were. and whether they're internal, and also the merging of companies, in a way, the M&As and on the reverse splitting of companies, right? I think those will also dictate whether you're going to look internally or you want to get an external blood with the right experience. And I think that's what the market will go towards.
Thank you very much. Do we have time for questions? Or we have? Okay. Sorry? Yeah. So basically, thank you very much. And I think what we're seeing is leadership is a journey, and there's no one thing which is what we all as a process like to say depends. But quickly, just pass on. If you were to say, what is one leadership lesson that is timeless? What would you say? Yeah, started by Keith. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Thank you.
One leadership. That's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have given enough can for today, but I think one of the things as any aspiring leader, right? We always feel as leaders that it's really a blessing. So as we grow, guys, one of the things is with the market how it's moved. I think the perfection is in the backseat. It's agility and moving and making small progress. That's going to define it. The days of sitting in a dark room, getting to a perfect product, or I'm going to be Steve Jobs defining what the customer will do after 2 years. I think those days are in a challenge right now. So the only thing I'm seeing, and maybe some of the things that we can adopt as speed, agility, fail fast, and try, rather than getting to a perfect thing, perfect product, perfect process, or anything. I would say that's what I've seen achieving.
But for me, almost the same, progress over perfection. Start building that delta and start executing it. That's the only way you could survive in this world. Again, every day for me, all of us, right? Every day it's a constant reinvention of yourself. Am I better compared to yesterday? Did I learn something different? Did I do something very different? And that constant learning has to be there.
So if I were to advise this group of students on one leadership attitude, and all of you will become future leaders, I would say number one very clearly in my mind is ethics. Please maintain the highest level of ethics and values as you work. That has been, whatever one can say that there's a lot of politics in the organization, whatever, but you know, what I have seen in my 25 years of career is that if you are ethical, definitely you progress. Sometimes it might be slow, but it is constant progress, and if you measure it, then at least personally I've seen. And I'll give you an anecdote here, like how do you see, how do you measure ethics, or how do you see whether your decision is ethical or not, because every single day one has to take a lot of decisions. So this was once quoted by a CEO of one of my organizations, that whenever I am in doubt, I think that if this decision of mine will be published in the newspaper, say the next day, that this decision was taken or this thing was done by by this person, then how will my parents think about that news? If they feel happy, then my decision is ethical, good, and the right decision. And if they feel embarrassed or ashamed, then it is wrong. So when you have to take any decision at any point in time, you may apply this. After that, I have been applying this parameter, and it has really brought a lot of clarity in my mind as I operate in my business. Yeah. So ethics.
I'll tell you something which everybody you know, and which is very common, but we are not mindful about that. Be mindful about that, you will be very much successful. And that one thing you have to keep always remembering, nothing is permanent. Put that thing and understand it well. Whatever is there is, nothing is permanent. It will keep on changing. And if you keep with this mantra, you will be successful. But you have to understand the real meaning of it. And second is that take decisions. It can be right, it can be wrong. Take your own decision. You are the in charge of your life. Do that. Don't think what people are saying, what is there, what is there. Take your decision, right or wrong, move. Thank you. So these are the things.
Thank you.
So we have heard throughout the discussion everything is changing and change is constant and all. But I will say that in case of a leader, and I would say that the one thing that he said, you know, we have to choose one thing that defines your leadership and that has to be constant is, I think, purpose, right? Because we discussed throughout the session, everything is changing, technology is changing, this is changing, that is changing. And when you are as a leader, everything is changing, everything around is changing. Purpose is what, you know, gives you the long-term focus, keeps you motivated. You wake up every morning with the same passion. You know there can be challenges, there can be difficulties, new things you have to learn, new challenges you have to overcome. And that is why I think purpose will give you that constant focus that this is the future, this is the goal that I want to achieve at the end of the day. Whatever else may change, my path may change, my other things may change, but I am going to achieve that goal at the end of the day. So I would say purpose is that one thing that defines leadership.
If you want to choose me one word for the leaders, who is the present leader, whatever, I will rate openness as the number one. Not to be stuck to any dogma, any belief, to be open to anything regardless of age, caste, creed, sensing the red flags in the market and just be open to anything. No, not at all closed.
This last minute I think is gold. I think you should. Many of them have worked for some time, but just this bouquet of lessons, I think is if any that if that's the only thing you take away from the session, I think you would probably do well. Let's ask the questions.
The floor is open for questions. Like if there are any, please let us know. We'll pass on the mic to you.
Thank you panelists for the wonderful discussion. Actually it was very interesting to listen to great analogies with cricket and Bollywood and all that. So my question is to Mr. Mohammed here. You mentioned that in course of time that there won't be corporations that are big, right? So I wanted to know what you meant by that, because in a growing population with more talent coming in, it would mean that it would imply that there will be more organizations coming up, which is not good for the organizations as well.
No, I think the way I said that it will be more self-sustained, smaller organization, which will again roll up to larger organization. What you have seen in VerteX, what you see in Eternal, which is Zomato, they have multiple verticals. Instead of creating multiple verticals, they have productized. Each has its own business unit and CEOs. But the fundamental shift you need to understand. Almost 3 weeks back, I was in Silicon Valley. There was a bunch of Stanford passouts where I was having conversation, and they have a startup. Only two employees are there. 4 Copilot licenses are there. They're building a product. They did a showcase of the thing. So again, you need to understand there will be organization, micro organization, which are getting created at scale. Who will leverage both humans as well as machines or agents or anything in that scale, right? That's going to happen. And till last year, we were talking about software as a service. Everyone was gaga about SaaS is the future. Now no one is talking about SaaS anymore. Everyone says that it's an agentic world out there. Agents will define, they will interact, they will create software, which is already happening. There are many customer relationship softwares which are created purely with agents. So again, this is starting, this is happening. My point was that you will have millions of smaller, large, mini footprint organization which will get created instead of large organization like X company where you have 1 million, 2 million employees. It will be very hard for those organizations to manage such a scale.
Are there any more questions? Else we'll be concluding the discussion.
We had a brief discussion about how to be a new age leader, but sometimes leaders are expected to not be a leader. So my question to the panelists would be how not to be a leader when they are already a leader at some point of time.
Just to take an attempt to answer this question, which though has been raised and creates a kind of a humor, but honestly this is one of the discussion which keeps on going on that does the world now need a complete change of the leadership definition? What exactly is a leader? What we mean by a leader? Because everyone will be well cut out for some piece of work and he will be measured by the success or the failure, some quantitative, qualitative parameter. And then what exactly is a leader? Because we have a stereotype concept of a leader, that a leader gives a vision, a leader brings a mission, a leader inspires, a leader energizes, and leader is a strict disciplinarian. So we have as he also mentioned that from our typical, from an Indian society which we come from, a father's image or a teacher's image, that's where we consider that as a leader to be. Even in the political circle also we consider some archetypal characters as the leader, that they are our leader, nation's leader. But now the question really is coming in the minds of the younger generation, what exactly does this leader mean? I mean, what do they bring in for which I will always continue to be a follower? It will be only a purpose-driven position, but there cannot be some leadership in perpetuity that is always a leader. So I do not have an answer to it, but I cannot also completely dismiss your question, because this is a concept which is continuously being challenged now.
I'll add very little to that. That I think in organizations when you are working, not everybody has to be leader also. As I was giving the example of army or navy or something, that can be some people are the leader at the top, and even others may call themselves leader. Like as a manager, senior manager wants to join the company, will call yourself leader. And I think everybody doesn't have to be leader in the sense that he was saying that giving vision, mission, values, purpose, that everybody doesn't have to do. And but a large part of the leadership, which is the middle management, should probably do the management and execution very well, right? So when you say maybe they should not always try to do too much innovation or changing the culture or something, but the goal and target and culture is given to them. How do you manage it well? How do you execute? How do you get the result? That is also extremely important. And the junior management and the middle management, I think that may be more important than just the visionary leadership.
How not to be a leader when you are a leader, right? I'll just say that, simple examples of when I work with different teams. So if I have one team responsible for one area, and as a leader, my key responsibilities remain providing the vision, what we want to achieve out of this. How do we create something world-class out of it? How do we create something which has not been created before? Right, so that I do as a leader, I inspire, I motivate, I build up a team and everything. Now, how not to be a leader? So when I interact with this team, so this all has been set, okay? So this is what I do on a regular basis. But sometimes when I interact with a team, and say I meet the team in a month, and I go to that client where I have a 50-member team, and I see. So what I do is, I don't guide or I just see where they are struggling. It might be the lowest of the job. It might be a job with a space. It might be a job with some logistic issue. It might be, I just go when I spend some time, say 4 hours there, meeting the team and all. I just try to solve for that issue. That issue might have to be solved by the junior most member in the team. But when I see that issue is troubling people, I just solve. So I am not a leader there. I am just one of the team members who's spending 3-4 hours there and not trying to give gyan to the team, but solving the issue that they are facing.
No, I think everything is covered, but I was telling somebody here, we have this concept called a servant leader, but it's more than that, as ma'am mentioned, it's more of a foot soldier, right? You go with the team, if they want anything, be part of it and do it. It applies to corporate leadership, it applies to politics, it applies to everything, right? The reason is very simple. Unless you are a foot soldier, you won't empathize and understand what your team is actually going through. And to ma'am's point, if they need help, find out and help it, go small, big. If not, just get them a pizza or a coffee, right? That itself is good enough, right? So how do you feel them that you are not sitting at a pedestal but part of their team? I think that's all it is.
We've now come to the end of today's panel discussion. A heartfelt thank you to the panelists for this enlightening discussion that brought in a lot of new perspectives. It's very evident that the future of work is evolving, and today's insights will help us navigate this transition effectively. Thank you so much.
I would now like to invite Professor Giri to please hand out the mementos to the guests. First we have Mr. Venkatesh Ramasubramanian. Next up we have Mr. Mohammed Ansari. We have Ms. Khadija. Next we have Mr. Balram Bhattacharya. Next we have Dr. Anshuman Ghosh. Next we have Mr. Amresh Dasgupta. Thank you to the students for attending the session with enthusiasm. You may now leave.